Charlie, let me turn you up a little bit. How are you?
Hello.
Can you hear
Ann, how
me
are
okay?
you?
I can hear you
Great.
too. I'm awesome. How are
I'm
you
wonderful. And
doing?
yourself?
I'm doing great. You
Well,
look
thank you, ma'am.
great. You've been feeling
All
healthy
is
and
well in
stuff?
my world.
Oh, that's great to hear. Well, your name came up because we are starting this Valley Fever podcast because it's something that is so elusive, but so many people deal with it. And our news director, my boss, had a horrible case of it and is still dealing with it. She just moved here from New
Okay.
Orleans. So we thought we got to find some people who have experienced this, who can kind of help folks understand all the different ways it can impact your
Yeah,
life. And for you, it clearly did.
it did. How did you come across my name? That was a long time ago.
So we were looking we were researching, and I believe someone came across a U of A study of students, and then there was a link to another article
Okay.
in there that talked about you and your thumb and how you had to have surgery because of it.
Right.
And someone said, "Oh my gosh, how does that work that you could get it in, you know, in a cut or something like that?" Do you think that's what happened?
No, they think that it was just a rare case where it transmitted to my hand. Yeah, they said it's less
Oh
than
my,
the doctor told me that it was less than 1% or a half a percent of the people that ever contract valley fever ever have it go, I don't remember the word, but to another, another limb of your body. But yeah, it was a wild ride for sure.
now, did you are you up in Mesa?
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you live right now?
In
Okay.
Mesa, yeah.
And so were you born and raised? Yeah.
Born and raised here, so which makes it even more rare. Have you ever dealt with
That
it?
is actually, we moved here about to Tucson about 3 years ago from Denver.
Okay.
And my
Boy, that's
son, yeah, big change. So my son got sick about 3 months after we moved here. Now, granted, we lived in for about a month while we were, no, not a month, a couple weeks while we were getting our house ready. We lived in like a residence inn or something like that. And my son and my daughter were super bored. So I took my son, we went and investigated the wash because we'd never seen anything like that before.
yeah.
And it was, super dusty. And I'm sure that that's where he got it. So he got sick and eventually got diagnosed with pneumonia. But they did test him and it was inconclusive. And now that I know more about it, I'm like, well, that's clearly what it was.
Absolutely.
But is it something you were aware of? Like, was that in your wheelhouse when you got it?
No. So you want me just to give you a little quick rundown of my story?
Yeah,
Okay. So
please.
I think it was like 2011, and I've always been healthy. Maybe occasionally would get a cold, but nothing serious, never the flu, nothing like that. But I would be real healthy, and then all of a sudden I would go from healthy, I'd wake up in the morning, and for about 4 days or 5 days, I couldn't leave bed. I had no energy, pure exhausted. I mean, I'd get up to go take a shower, and I'd have to go back to bed. So this went on. I wouldn't feel well for 4 or 5 days, and then I'd feel great for like 2 weeks, and then I wouldn't feel well for 4 or 5 days. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go get this checked out. So I went to urgent care, and they did a scan of my lungs or whatever, and the doctor came in and said, and at the time I smoked, and he said, I think you might have lung cancer. And I said, wow. He said, your lungs are real
Oh,
scarred up, whatever. So he sent me to a pulmonologist where they did a few more tests, and it came back I had a real high, I don't remember what they're called, a valley fever. So I knew nothing about it. I heard of dogs getting it. So for a year, I took the fluconazole, and which is just a strong antibiotic that they do. And every 3 weeks, I had to go get my liver checked out. and make sure all my liver functions and everything were good, because I guess the fluconazole is real difficult on your liver. So for about a year, I had no improvement. I was taking this medicine. Maybe I was only getting tired for like a day or two before I'd get my energy back. And I was playing in a golf tournament one day, and I was telling these guys, they actually said, "Hey, you want to go get a beer afterwards?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm not drinking. I can't drink on this medication." And they said, "Well, what are you taking?" And I told them, and he said, "As a matter of fact, I had valley fever, and this guy didn't want to give up drinking. So he started doing a lot of research, and he said, I take oil of oregano." And so I left the golf tournament. I went to the health store. I bought oil of oregano, just droplets, and put them like in a little shot glass with water. And I did it for a week. And I went back the next week to get all my blood, and the valley fever was completely gone, just like that. And so I said, I just did all this for a year, doing this, taking the test, taking this medicine, completely changed my lifestyle. And here I am, I take this oil of oregano for a week, and I go in and I come out totally clean. So about 3-4 months this was probably about 4 months goes by, and I quit taking the oil of oregano. And then the next thing I know, I had the biggest tournament of my career at the time. And I developed this half golf ball size lump right here. Well, it was a huge tournament, so I'd been practicing for about 2 weeks leading up to it, and it didn't hurt, nothing like that. And I played the golf tournament. I got my PGA Tour card. I drove back from Palm Springs. I said, I got to go see the doctor what this is. I got 3 weeks till my first event on tour. And he went in, he stuck a needle in it and drained the most bizarre white and green fluid that you'd ever seen out of it, sent it in, called me back the next day. And he said, Charlie, he goes, this valley fever has gone to your hand. He goes, we're going to go this afternoon and see a hand surgeon. So I went into a hand surgeon that afternoon, and I'm in full-blown panic mode. I'd worked my whole life to get my PGA Tour card, and now I've got to go see a hand surgeon. So I walk in, and they do what they got to do, and he says, we got to operate. He said, the valley fever has eaten 60% of your thumb tendon, and if we don't clear it up now, we're going to have to end up taking a tendon from your arm and stretching it down, and this is going to be months. So about 10 hours later, they put me to sleep, and they went in and they cleared it out. And I mean, I still have the big scar. And luckily enough, 3 weeks later, I was able to give it a go. It took me a little bit longer, but then, so everything was okay. And then about 5 months later, it came back. But when we went in to drain it to see if it was the same stuff, it wasn't. And since then, I take oil of oregano every day of my life religiously. And there's a million more benefits to it. But and sometimes when I'm feeling a little run down or something like that, I will, double my dose or triple my dose of oil of oregano. And I'm telling you, the next day I feel 100%. So whether that little whether the valley fever spore still just lives inside me a little bit, which I kind of think it does, because I notice when I don't take the oil of oregano, I will start to get a little bit tired after a week or two of not taking it. But so I've made oil of oregano a daily thing that I take, and it's so bizarre for sure. And the fact that fluconazole and that heavy medicine is what they recommended, and the oil of oregano I found, and I've got about 3 or 4. I actually had a woman text me last night and said, Charlie, she goes, she's a big mountain bike rider, jogger in the desert. And she said, I wasn't feeling good. And I remember, because her and her husband and I were really good friends, they remembered when I went through this, and, she was telling me her symptoms. I said, go down to the health store, buy yourself some oil of oregano. Sure enough, she did. She took it for about 3 days, 4 days, and she has never felt better.
What do you think it is about it?
Excuse me?
Do you have any idea? What do you think it is? Do you have any idea what it is about the oil of oregano?
Well, oil of oregano it kills funguses and viruses. So especially during this whole COVID deal, I upped it or whatever, and I've probably taken 20 COVID tests for the tour and never failed one. But it kills funguses and bacterias and viruses, and it's worked. It's worked.
And just imagine if you hadn't been chatting with that guy who told you that tip.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. And had that guy, told me, because I was still feeling all the symptoms just on a shorter time frame, when I was taking that fluconazole as I was before. And then I literally 1 week, I took 5 droplets twice a day in a shot glass and drank it. And 1 week later, I went back in and everything was gone.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. And now
bizarre.
it's in every. Do you have any idea, or has your doctor been able to tell you if you just like add more oregano to your diet, does it have any impact, or does it have to be this sort of distilled format?
I haven't really talked much to a doctor. I've done a ton of research on my own or whatever, but for me, the droplets work better than taking it in the pill form. And it's not the most enjoyable taste, and it's pretty strong, but I'll tell you what, and there's so many health benefits for oil of oregano that I just take it every day. Yeah. I didn't have to change my lifestyle. And I think I can get a 2-month supply for like $8 or $12 at Sprouts.
All right, I'm gonna have to check this out because
Yeah.
that is incredible.
Yeah.
And so as you've done all this,
there's probably been about
10
10
ahead,
people.
sorry.
There's probably been about 10 or 12 people over the last 2 or 3 years that have contacted me. Some that have been on the fluconazole, some that hadn't taken the next step yet. And I've told them to go to the store, get oil of oregano, and every single person has come back and said that they feel great.
Every single one.
Every single one. Yes, every single one. Is it true? Did a strictly Valley Fever hospital or clinic open in Tucson?
There is a Valley Fever Research Center here. Yes.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason why we thought, this is something that we really should get in on, because we are sort of the center for that research. Now, one of the other podcast episodes we want to do is about the fact that they've given up on a vaccine. For a long time, they did get a grant to research a vaccine, but they just couldn't come up with it. Like 20 years of research.
Wow.
Yielded no vaccine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, and I think it's partially because it's just it has such strange behavior, because it's a fungus and not really the kind of infection that we're used to dealing with.
Right. And, and then when I did have it, it was flu symptoms minus, there was no getting sick or bathroom issues, but the pure exhaustion that I experienced was like nothing I had ever experienced before. And I wish I would have done research earlier, about alternative uses other than the fluconazole, but it's been a lifesaver. And, I don't take pills for headaches. I'm not a pill person, not a flu shot person, not anything like that. And now I really, when I take something or need something or feel a certain way, I strictly go to the vitamins, and I've had nothing but success, but I've had the most success with Valley Fever when it comes to anything with oil of oregano.
In the fluconazole, that can make you feel pretty crummy too, from what I understand. It's not exactly a treat to take on your body either.
No, it sure isn't. And it's obviously got to be pretty harsh on your body if they're making you come in and do your blood and your liver and kidney functions, every 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wonder, and let me ask also, have you had your lungs checked since then? Do they look like have they recovered?
They will never recover. The scarring is permanent. So there has been a couple times where I've had a real bad cough or something like that, and I have gone. I'm an urgent care guy. I don't want to wait for doctors. I just like to go in. I've got one that can do my blood, that can take scans, that can do everything. And so a couple times I've gone back in, and the scars are all the exact same as they are from 10 years ago. No new ones. But yeah, they say that the scars will never go away. Once the damage is done, it's done.
That's what I've heard. So after the hand surgery, what was your recovery like? And do you feel that all of this impacted your career, or did the oil of oregano help you get back on the track you wanted?
It did no, it didn't impact my career at all. My lifestyle, it completely flipped my lifestyle 180 for sure. The recovery was about 3 or 4 weeks, but I'm talking I was spending 6, 8, 10 hours a day with physical therapists and that, trying to get it going, because I needed to make sure I had full motion and everything, because my hands are my job. So I spent a lot of time. The recovery was really, simple. It was the keeping the joint loose and making sure that the tendons stayed flexible instead of tightening up, and then the tendons coming back together, because like I said, it was 60% of my thumb tendon that valley fever ate. It was not a good situation. I'm lucky that I went in, and I'm lucky that it made such a fuss on my hand that I noticed it, because had it been any smaller, I probably would have dismissed it for a little bit longer, because from the time that the lump showed up to the time I had surgery was only about 10 or 12 days, maybe 2 weeks. And at that point, I'd already eaten 60% of my tendon. Had it been a smaller, or had I not been a golfer and so worried and concerned about my hands, I might have let it go longer. And then who knows? I mean, it would have eventually gone. And like they said I would have my thumb would have gone limp, and I wouldn't have been able to do anything. And then they would have to extend a tendon from your forearm down to reconnect and do things. So there was in a matter of about 4 days, there was a lot of information, and a lot of things that I never thought were going to take place happened very quickly. And I was lucky to come out of it unscathed, really, other than just just a year of my life of tests and medicine and then a surgery. But now I'm past it, and all is well.
Was it your dominant hand?
No, it was my left hand.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, that's good, at least.
Yeah.
Not that it haven't happened either hand, but
Right.
So do you have any advice obviously this is concerning for a lot of athletes, golfers, as well as, baseball players, even like that weekend softball game. We were saying, we have a station team before all the COVID stuff that, you're out there in the dust, and do you have any words of wisdom if you could go back?
I don't think, I think it's impossible to escape. I think if valley fever, everybody is going to get it, whether, the majority of people that have grown up here are pretty much immune to it. It gets in there, it does its thing, and it moves on. I think I remember it was like 96% of the people that they get it, has no effect, anything like that. I guess if you were going to, lock yourself in a plastic bag or a bubble, you could avoid it. But, with all the new construction and all the outdoor activities and the haboobs and, the wind just stirring it up, and all you got to do is inhale it. And if it affects you, there's nothing you can do about it.
Do you have any idea when or how you got it?
At the time, I was doing a lot of like off-roading and quadding in the desert. But at the same time, I was also outside playing golf in the desert every day. So, who knows where I got it, but I would think, riding the quads and stirring up dust and riding with buddies and breathing in their dust as they're in front of you. And I would think that's where I got it, but you can't pinpoint it.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're okay.
Yes, me too. Absolutely. Yeah, it was a scary.
Yeah.
What's that?
Go ahead. Sorry about that. I was just going to say the oil of is a huge one.
Yes, it is. No question about it. And, everybody that's called me, and I say, don't go to the doctor, go try this first, because it literally in 1 week took care of, I went from, I'm trying to think of what the word was, the levels they call it, I don't remember what it exactly was called.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they were one of the highest levels that they had seen, and they remained that way through about 13 or 14 blood tests. And then I took this oil of oregano, and in 1 week it was gone.
Do you think there's anything that, is there anything venues can do? Or, I don't know if there's anything we can't really change our lifestyles. I'm sure the masks maybe help a little bit with when we're all wearing them, maybe, but it's not like that's going to continue forever and ever.
Right. But then I think to myself, when we were riding quads, we had bandanas around our masks, we had helmets on. So we were the least, it wasn't like we were out there free riding it. So, but it could have been on the golf course where, you're not wearing a mask or anything, but it's just a spore that gets airborne and you breathe it in and you're either lucky or you're not.
Have you talked to anyone else who got it in a limb or an extremity like that?
Neither the doctor that I went to nor the surgeon had ever seen it happen before. And I have never talked to anybody else that it has gone to another part of their body. Nope. Yeah, it was a rare.
So, and you are, obviously as a golfer, you meet a lot of people. Are people around, like on the tour, are they aware of valley fever when you when you bring out that story when, and if you do people have a reference point?
I haven't talked about it much because really, other than in the Southwest and mainly Arizona, it doesn't exist anywhere else. It's a spore in the desert that gets stirred up and airborne when we dust or new construction. And so I have not run across anybody in the golfing world. But like I said, a lot of the people that have contacted me have been people that mountain bike, that do trail running, and outdoor activities that are in the dirt, in the middle of nowhere, kind of undeveloped land. And that is the common denominator in all the people that I have talked to.
Just one of those strange regional things that we have to.
Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't know what valley fever was, just like I didn't know what anxiety was when I had a panic attack on national television. I had no idea what that was. And I just figured it out, dealt with it, and got through it and moved on, luckily. So, but thank gosh for that conversation that day. That guy invited me to have a beer and I couldn't do it because I might have found oil of oregano by now, but I don't know. But it flipped my life around drastically, quickly, and for a long time.
And I feel like especially now with the mental health piece that you just mentioned coming to the forefront, hearing someone say like, "Oh, I went through that panic attack." I mean, that's a different podcast. Yeah. But just to put it out there, I think it's very cool that you talk about it, and other athletes too have talked about having this situation that now it makes people feel like, okay, I'm not the only one in the world, and I should at least know that I'm not dying right now.
Exactly. Yeah, it was the outreach from people after I won that golf tournament, when I left the golf course in an ambulance on national TV and came back and did it. I did a deal for Solid Rock. I did a whole bunch of big deals, and I've never, and still to this, that was in 2012, still to this day, I have people texting me, emailing me, reaching out to me about, hey, they can't even walk out of their house. I've offered to fly people out to my home to hang out, to talk about it. And they're like, Charlie, that's the most generous thing, but there's no way I could leave like a 2 or 3 mile range of my house. I'll freak out. I had no idea what anxiety was or the impact it had on people. And so now, just like how you've reached out, anybody that reaches out to me, I'll talk to them on the phone, I'll email them, because it was a really, just like the valley fever, but in a whole nother aspect. It was a really scary time of my life, and if I can help somebody avoid that, or at least lessen the feelings, I'll do whatever I can.
Well, we appreciate you for that. And you know what the cool part about that story is that you went on to win, and that gives people hope that, okay, you can come through, you can get through it and come out on the other side.
Yep, you sure can, with anything.
Absolutely. Well, what's new for you right now?
Nothing. Spending a lot of time with my boy. He's 8.5 years old. And then kind of getting back into the golf. I got about 4 or 5 tournaments coming up here. I'm getting ready to travel to, so I'm getting ready for that. But other than that, just living this wild ride that we're all going through right now.
I know, it's been nuts. Well, an 8.5-year-old, that's a great age.
It's a lot of fun for sure. It is a lot of fun. I enjoy every single minute of it.
I know what you mean. Well, yeah. I hope everyone in your family is healthy, and it's just been a pleasure talking with you.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for reaching out. And if you have any more questions, email, whatever, I'm happy to help or anything you need.
Thank you, Charlie. You're awesome. And I will let you know when this podcast gets off the ground and when you can listen.
Cool. That'd be great.
All right. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.